I said more energy, Craig. We need more energy for this podcast.
Yeah.
got no life out of Craig. Definitely got no life out of Waples.
Well, I feel bad.
Why? What'd you do?
Well, first introductions, and we'll get right to it.
Oh yeah, I'm the Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay.
And I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher.
Are you really? That's debatable right now. But go ahead.
So, uh, D&D WotC came out with a new community update on the 11th concerning AI art generation in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
Yes, but we didn't have the actual official word from WotC about
I had already seen their thing
the.
they were talking about it. I guess it wasn't an official thing,
It
but
wasn't unofficial,
somebody from them had posted on Twitter or X or some shit.
right? The official statement is last week we became aware that an artist that used generative AI to create artwork for the upcoming book Big B Presents Glory of the Giants. We have worked with this artist since 2014. He's put years of work into books we all love. While we weren't aware of the artist's choice to use AI in the creation process for these commissioned pieces, we have discussed it with him and he will not use AI for Wizard's work moving forward. They released a statement about the use of generative AI on Saturday, August 5th, but they want to provide more information about the reason behind the decision, as well as answer some questions that people have presented to them in the previous days. So, the question from last week is like, why did the producer, the art director, not catch that these were AI artworks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question they asked in this official statement is, "Why didn't you catch that this was art when this art was submitted?"
Yep.
And the response was, "We commissioned the artwork with more than a year ago, before we had an AI policy in place as part of our standard process for working with artists. We enjoy working with artists of varying styles and encourage artistic interpretation and exploration. We saw the artwork as an evolution of the artist's professional style. We did not realize that there was a change in his process or tools." Oh shit.
Uh,
Um,
if what they're saying is true, then that goes back to what I said in that I can't tell the difference between the AI art and the CG art. It all fucking looks the same to me. I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but
right. Are you going to continue working with the artists? We do not feel it's fair to ban an artist when there was no AI policy in place for them to follow. Additionally, we have recommissioned all the art that used generative AI.
all
Okay.
the art that okay, so I'm guessing just with him, hopefully. Hopefully
So,
he's the only one doing it.
well, at the moment. So, what else are you going to do to address this? We have pulled the art that contained generative AI from Glory of the Giants and the Giants of Starforged on D&D Beyond. That change is visible now to anyone who has pre-ordered with the pre-order benefit of the early access to digital content. We also recommission the artwork and will add it to the digital compendium once we have it, as well as any future reprint of Glory of the Giants. So the current book will not be updated.
Sure,
Obviously, it could
I
probably already be
yeah,
printed.
never expected that to happen.
I should get mine tomorrow, I think. Multiple members of our art team and art team leadership have personally re-reviewed each piece of art in Glory of the Giants, the Deck of Many Things, the Fendelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, and Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse for potential AR art usage. No generative AI art usage beyond what has already been identified in Glory of the Giants or Giants of Starforge was found. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this, and this quote in particular, is on YouTube. There's a couple people that listen to our podcast, and one person brought up some artwork from Keys to the Golden Vault. Okay.
Hmm.
Particularly, there is a piece of artwork for the Stygian Abyss campaign setting. Um, and I'm pulling it up. Or Stygian Gambit, sorry. Page 26 on the book. And when you look at the art piece, okay, it's a tiefling and like a gnome or halfling in a boat, a guard on the dock, and like a tiefling waitress in the back, and a bunch of other people's in the back. But when you look at the piece of art, it just feels off. Okay. It's like the picture in the back was created by a different process than the people in the front. And there's these rocks all around it, like to show that it's a cave entrance. And the rocks don't look good either.
Okay.
The lighting seems all the way off. I don't know if that was AI art generated, but you remember how I said like adding a background using AI art on a piece was a good use of AI art? That's what
Uh-huh.
it feels like this is. It feels like someone kind of said, "Oh, put rocks here," and like erased those sections in Photoshop, and it put in some rocks, and it just feels out of place. The lighting feels poor. And there's another example later on in the book. See if I can find it real quick. It's one of the later ones.
I'm guessing you're
Um,
you're you're looking at your book, or
yeah, I'm
can,
looking at the book. Um, Here it is. Um, no, it wasn't it. Anyways, oh, there it was. Ah, just when I about to give up.
yep.
Shard of the Accursed, another piece where like the rock and like the figures just don't look right, and it's kind of like honestly what I feel is like I feel like someone took like multiple different arts that they may have done or used different styles and then like photoshopped them all together.
Could
It's not
be.
like it's not like it's bad, but it just when you look at it with a little bit of a glaring eye, it feels a little off.
Or maybe that
Was
person can't do backgrounds worth a damn. They can only
yeah,
do figures. I mean, that happens.
was it AI art generated? I don't know. I can't speak to that. Um, but it does kind of have that feel to it. So I find it interesting that they're not going back to any of the books released recently because I kind of feel like maybe there's a couple other books here and there that have some AI art elements to them. But that's also going to kind of say like, if people haven't noticed it by now, then
Yeah.
good on the artists.
There's nothing at all going forward. They might have a policy in place, but there's nothing preventing those artists from using AI. Like
Yeah, and
like
just not to be a dead horse, but like I it's going to be around. It's going to be a good tool. I'd rather people use the tool and get good with it. Again, I point to Corridor Digital with their AI rock paper scissors anime that they're making. It looks good. It looks stylized. It seems to work well. So if they're going to continue working down this path with AI as a tool, then we need to work with that. Do we need the I'm a gourmet burger salesman and I go to McDonald's and I order a custom hamburger and I claim it's my own? Do we need that kind of AI artwork? Definitely not. But adding some elements in, helping to improve a piece, you know, where it's good and it looks good, I'm all for it.
yeah, we are not going to rehash this
No.
conversation. Me and you are on opposite ends of this
Right.
completely, and that's not going to change.
Yeah. Um so the last question presented in this was how do you know that future products won't contain generative AI?
Yeah.
We have made the following mandate as part of our artist guidelines. We require that artists refrain from using AI art generation tools as part of their art creation process for developing D&D art. We are also looking at other tools to assist in detection of generative AI use. Further, we'll be reaching out to hear from our artists regarding which artistic tools best serve the art and the community. The heart of D&D is human creativity and imagination. We will continue to commission and employ human artists to make D&D books and game products, which I'm all for.
I hope that stays the case. I have the feeling that this is one of those OGL scenarios where in 20 years they're just going to rehash it. Either that, or they'll start cutting their workforce or whatever.
Listen, in 20 years, when we're all hooked up to the giant internet and we don't have physical bodies anymore, it's not going to matter.
Well, in 20 years, we're all just going to be used as power sources for the robots. That's how that works. We know
See,
this.
I said something creative and then you just rehashed the Matrix.
That is correct. Also,
Yeah.
the Matrix was a stolen idea.
Yeah, it
So
was.
yeah,
Yeah. Be
yeah.
somewhat creative. Don't use other people's works for your creative statements. You bastard.
So in other words, don't use AI for art.
So, that's just a cool community update. What do you got this week?
Oh shit, what do I have this week? Um oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. So since we've been playing Baldur's Gate, uh, I'm not gonna give story away, obviously, but there is a character that you run into within the game that has effectively a hell engine inside them, powering them.
Uh huh.
So this is a character that has a fucking engine inside them. I want to know what made people think that going steampunk or hellpunk or dieselpunk or whatever the fuck you want to call it a good idea in the Forgotten Realms.
So, so to kind of dial that back a little bit,
And
it's a
I'm being very aggressive about this because I'm not a fan of it. I admit this is on me. Some people might love it, but it did start with Avernus. I
Mhm.
actually went online to figure out when the first mention of infernal war machines was, and apparently it was 2019 when the Descent into Avernus came out. I cannot find any reference to it prior to that.
Yes,
Uh,
it is very much a creation of the Descent into Avernus, where the blood war has been going on for so long that they kind of basically started to create Mad Max style hell machines to kind of roam the wasteland and use soul coins to power it on. It's a big part of, well, not really a big part. It is a part of um, Descent into Avernus. There is a couple online official um, expansions to that. Um, I think it's called the Infernal Machine Rebuild. Is I think the official title of it, and it kind of expands the war machines and lets you kind of create custom ones. It was an add-on, DLC add-on that's just for free on D&D Beyond. So you can just download that and kind of like run with it. There's just a little mini adventure that goes with it as well. But yeah, it's pretty much just a creation of Avernus.
yeah, and not a fan. Not a fan. Like I hear war machines. It's a medieval setting. Like it's supposed to be a medieval setting. Obviously, there's some Renaissance era stuff thrown into Forgotten Realms. Um, but in
The
general, the time period wise is supposed to be medieval. Gunpowder is incredibly rare within the Forgotten Realms, as we've discussed on here before. And
I think part of that is your on acceptance to realize it's 100 years later than the edition you
oh,
played.
okay. I'm sorry. So they managed to figure out all the technology, made cars essentially and tanks in the course of 100 years. Okay, cool. Going from catapults to tanks in
Well,
100 years.
let's be clear, okay? There are no hell machines on the material plane.
There's nothing that stops them from going there. All you got to do is open
Not
a portal.
yet.
All you got to do is open a portal.
Well, they didn't give any kind of canonical reason as to why an infernal war machine can't just show up on the material plane. My guess, my DM brain kind of like working it would be like it doesn't work on that plane of existence. There's too much because the weave would interfere with it or something along those lines.
I mean, as a DM, you can always come up
Yeah.
with excuses why it
Um,
doesn't work, but
but the war machines were a pretty fun aspect of Descent to Avernus. And you kind of needed them to basically let the players move from one place to another without having the campaign drag on for a thousand
or
years.
set up teleportation portals and make them move
Well,
around. Like there's a million ways in a fantasy setting to move characters. You don't need war machines to do it.
so the problem is that Faerun has definitely moved past the medieval setting that it is. It's a setting that is kind of in the Renaissance era now that didn't really have a need to create gunpowder. It's not like gunpowder doesn't exist, but it doesn't need to create it. Like it exists, people have it, but it's not like a readable resource that they're out there making
Oh,
because it's
it pops up in
everything
well, no,
now.
it pops up in the Baldur's Gate video game, and
Yeah.
they've changed the history of gunpowder as well.
Well,
From it was always it was called Gond powder initially, because it was the followers of Gond, who is the god of creation and devices, that was that made gunpowder, and it was incredibly rare. Those were the only people who had it, and they were extremely secretive and guarding of it. Now apparently it's just a gnomish thing.
well, it's a gnomish thing, but again, it goes back to there's really no need for like steampunk power, gunpowder power, coal power in Faerun because the weave and magic exists. So they didn't have to have that kind of like fuel to make things. Like I Eberron kind of had their own technology and whatnot, and it kind of bled in a little bit.
Eberron is a setting designed for that,
Yeah,
and I have
right.
zero issue with that because it's built
Well,
for that.
hold on. It kind of bled a little bit into the Forgotten Realms, especially when Tasha's brought over the Artificer as a default class.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like Artificer in Faerun. I think it doesn't fit. But
Oh,
I'm
I
not going
don't.
to
Yeah.
stop a player choosing Artificer. I just kind of have to set the expectation. And it's like, hey, from my understanding, there's only one island full of gnomes that can be artificers in Faerun. You would have to have had some kind of connection or learn from them, and I'm okay with that. Like I will help players fit artificers in if they really want to play it, but I just don't like them in there. But I've kind of had to grow to accept that they're going to be there, and now we have war machines, and now we have other clockwork technologies that are
Yep.
in abundance everywhere now because of Waterdeep Dragon Heist. You know, it's like I
It's
said, I feel it's less medieval now and a more kind of Renaissance era Da Vinci kind of mechanics and workings. But because magic existed, a lot of the things that we use to advance technology, like gunpowder, just never really became a need because what's the use of gunpowder when I can cast dancing lights in the sky and make fireworks?
Yeah. l- Look, I mean, you're not wrong about.
I'm never wrong.
Well, that's definitely not true. You're wrong all the time, constantly. You can't even say names right half the time. Uh, but what your statement on this is not incorrect. I am a grumpy ass old man, who grew up through Forgotten Realms being what it was. Forgotten Realms is the core setting for Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons. It's probably going to remain that way going forward forever. So I liked it the way it was. I liked it to stay a proper medieval setting with the slight Renaissance. Okay, you occasionally get the Renaissance style hats or dress. You got rapiers and sabers, but otherwise it was pretty much a medieval setting. And
I,
they've introduced war machines into it. There's nothing to say that in 5.5 they're not going to just introduce some automobile that's run by gnomish clockwork. Uh, I mean,
you
it's
want you want to know something that's really funny about our reality, our human reality that we exist in?
sure. There's a lot of stuff
Rapier,
funny.
rapiers were invented 300 to 400 years after the first firearms were invented.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and like I said, they've kind of moved ahead in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had gunpowder in first edition Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
This is 100 years later, so I'm not surprised they would have
Actually,
rapiers.
first edition. What DR was first edition?
What do you mean? Oh, I have no clue. I don't even know what the current DR is, man. I do
The
know. I know
current
it's a.
DR is
I know it's roughly 100. It's
1486.
about 100 years later.
No, it's more than 100 years later.
Um. Well, now we're gonna we're gonna spend the rest of the podcast trying to figure this out. So from the birth from the Icewind Dale book, which is I mean that's effectively the beginning DR of the Forgotten Realms stories to current
Hmm.
time period. I would assume you're already on Google looking this all up while I'm talking to fill in time.
Yeah. All it shows is just the 5e adventures in chronological order. I know fourth edition was the early 1400s DR. Um, and then fifth edition was the later. half of the 1400s. So it's like 1485 to 1496. 1496 is the current year, to my understanding.
Okay.
Um, so I believe third edition was the 1300s DR, and I think second edition was the 1200s because the 1200s had the Netherese in it, I believe.
Well, the Netherese died out almost like 1,000+ years
Okay,
before the
it was
Driss
200
story.
DR for them. Yeah. Um, so I think it like second edition, like I think it's around 1200 DR. And then everything else kind of built off of there. And like the timeline has been advancing slowly as the books come out. So it's been like 200-ish years, almost 300-ish years, um, in D&D time. So over 300 years, you would leave the medieval setting and go into the Renaissance, which is kind of like where they are now, in my opinion. Um, there is a lot of clockwork stuff. I don't. I've just grown to accept it, just like the artificers I've kind of grown to accept. I don't want to see war machines hitting the material plane. I like them in hell because it just fits that
I don't
setting.
I don't think that fits at all, but if they're gonna use it, and I know they're going to, I hope they just
Well,
leave it
it's
there.
it's because Zariel and it took over the planescape, and her and angelic corruption messed
Like
with.
if you have beings like angels and devils and demons who are literally ageless, and they just now are figuring out how to use souls to power war machines. I mean, that seems a little off to me.
Well, I mean, they they found the book and learned it.
Which book?
How to build war machines 101.
How to
War
build war
machines for
machines.
dummies. War machines for devils.
Uh, yeah,
So your issue is that there's that from Baldur's Gate is that there's an infernal machine in one of the heroes.
yeah.
Not minx sleeping inside of a mimic for like 100 years.
No, nope,
All
nothing
right.
like that.
Not the fact that Minx is a romanceable partner and you could
Ca-
potentially see his genitalia in a cutscene.
That's horrifying.
Yeah,
I'd be more
and boo.
interested in Boo.
Creepy. Um. So yeah, we have been playing the Baldur's Gate on our stream. I've been playing it offline as well too.
Same.
Um, one thing that I really like about the game, but also really don't like, is the amount of persuasion and deception, insight checks, and the amount of talking that kind of happens. So, um, very early on in the game, you meet a goblin and you can talk with him and you can intimidate him, you can persuade him, you can insight check him, you can mind read him, you can do a whole bunch of things with him.
You can hit him with a badger.
You can hit him with a badger. Um, and there's just so much like interaction interpersonally that like I don't have at my table that upsets me. Like I watch this game and it's just like, man, this I'm thinking from a DM perspective, like, man, this D&D DM is just so good. He's got all the voices down. He's playing all the NPCs. They're fantastic. And there's all these other options, and they all seem to work interconnected with each other. It's like, man, D&D is not this good.
It's funny
so
you would
I,
it's funny you'd bring that up. I have that level of interaction between my players interacting with each other. Like when I'm running my campaign, my players get into character and they role play with each other constantly.
yeah,
It's hard for me to get that level of interaction between me as the DM running NPCs and them.
yeah, it's really weird, and like, I hope someone doesn't get disappointed playing Baldur's Gate 3 and then playing a real game of D&D and like, I want to talk with the goblin. The goblin shanked you. It doesn't say a word.
Yeah, the
like,
goblin's name is Steve, and that's literally all you're going to learn about him because he is just experience points.
yeah, and like, so like in that goblin town when I was doing the playthrough, instead of just rushing in there and smashing the first goblin I saw with a battle axe like I did with my barbarian, I'm playing a bard, so I went in there with a bard and talked to him and then like mind controlled him, and now all the goblins are just like neutral to me, and I complete the whole thing without throwing a single punch.
Yep.
And I'm like, fuck, I don't like this. So
Playing a bard doing the persuasion or sorcerer persuasion, I think that's easy mode, honestly. That's kind of what I'm finding because there are so many battles that I'm able to alter before the battle because of
Yeah,
that, or just outright avoid because of just talking to people.
yeah, and like that doesn't really happen that much in D&D. Like I let it happen if like the players are pushing towards that,
Yeah.
you know. But I still went by and murdered all the goblins because like I didn't get experience points that I wanted.
Yeah,
Like
you get 15 experience if you talk to them and 75 if you kill them. So,
right, so there's experience points. I just got to hit that little pinata. Um, so I keep like just it's so fantastical and just so big and out there. It's like a DM professionally prepped this for 4.5 years and is now playing it with you, and you're having the best time ever, and like it can't live up. Like it's almost better than playing D&D at the table. I have to admit,
you can't
it's not
wait
the
until
same.
you can't wait until AI is running D&D Beyond tabletop for you. That's what I'm hearing.
I wonder how that works with their AI policy. They don't want
Uh,
AI art, but AI DMs work.
yeah, well, I don't see why in the future that won't be a thing. Um,
So speaking of, that's actually my next topic.
uh-oh.
Um, it's less that, but more that WotC has now come out and stated that they want all future editions and future product to be digital on through D&D
Oh,
Beyond.
yeah. Yeah, we already
That's now
knew
like
this.
we knew it, but we didn't know it. Now
Yeah.
there's been a couple press releases out there that pretty much said that they're going to focus on the digital aspect of D&D moving forward.
Yeah.
And while I'm okay with that, like I don't mind the stuff online, I know it's going to piss off a lot of people. I'll wait for more actual, like, hard evidence to kind of pop out. But at the same time, it's like I hope it works out for them. But I just don't.
I
I don't
don't
think
care.
I think it's going to be as bad as fourth edition was, since fourth edition now was they've retconned that to be basically that we always wanted to be a WoW competitor, and you see how that turned out.
I don't care that they're going online with this stuff. I don't care that they're putting everything to D&D Beyond and everything, as long as they continue to release the books. As long as you're releasing physical copies, then it's not going to affect my tabletoping game at all.
But why put out physical books that cost a lot of money that have no return on investment that you want when you can get $30 for free with
Because
digital
it
product?
it is one of the ways that people do get into the game. It is a way for them to drive their product. They need to think of releasing the books as advertising.
You say that, but I'm sitting here
I'm,
waiting for
whether
any official update from Adventures League as to what they're doing with Adventures League, and still
yeah,
getting nothing. So,
yeah. I
uh,
mean, I don't necessarily trust that they would do that, but D&D, like it is by far in a way the biggest role playing game out there. Like I released, I gave you guys sort of the numbers from sales that had been released to quote unquote to the public recently, and apparently like D&D is 80% of the market, give or take.
yeah,
Uh, and that's not even really surprising. Dungeons and Dragons was the first, and it is by far the biggest. Uh, but it doesn't, just saying Dungeons and Dragons isn't going to bring people in. Uh, Playing it as a video game will bring people in. Playing it as a online, like they're talking about doing, will bring people in. And releasing the physical products will continue to bring people in. Uh, that's it's just a way to bring people into the game. Some of them you might make $60 off of, and that'll be it ever. And then some of them will be like us, who are still doing this shit 30 plus years later, and they keep
yeah,
making tons of money off of us.
yeah. It is what it is, and we'll see what happens. But I just hope AL gets around to it because we're still running it pretty well, and um, it's they're accepting some things, and like there are some people still working it, but it's just not. It just feels like it's just an afterthought.
Oh, it
Um,
definitely is at this point, and you know it. I think everything has gone by the wayside until they get the new edition out. Maybe
yeah,
after that's released, they're a year or two after that's released, maybe they'll think about AL again.
yeah. I know that they did put out a thing for the Giants of Starforge. They did update that that was legal to play, but I still never saw anything for the keys to the Forgotten Realms. So
Or Keys to the
we'll
Golden
see.
Vault,
Yeah,
or
keys to the Golden Vault, or from the Golden Vault.
what is Giant of the Star Realm?
That is the free adventure they put out in D&D Beyond for you to play uh, something from Big B's, because there was no adventure for Big B's. It's a giant related module that it's level 16. So
Okay.
I'll be running it at my place. I have to build characters, I think, for it, and that's going to be a doozy. And then we'll see how playing a level 16 AL game goes.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck with that. I would run a level 16 game for my players, no problem, but I'm not about to run a level 16 for brand new players.
Well, they're not all brand new.
Yeah, but
There's a lot there.
one or two brand new players is difficult. I started like Muffin when he first started playing with me and my group. It was I
Mhm.
think that was his first time playing D&D, and it was third edition, and they were level 10 or 12 or something, and it took him a while to sort of get the hang of it.
Yeah, the map is just so huge for the Starforge, and there's the final encounter is four fire giants, so four CR9 monsters and one adult red dragon.
Uh, yeah, I mean, if you've worn down their resources, that could be a tough fight.
Yeah,
If
we'll see.
if everybody's at full resources, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be a lot. Um, but anyway, so speaking of new players, I did get a chance to. I had to fill in for a DM that wasn't able to make the youth adventure, not the youth group that Synergy hosts every other Sunday. Basically to get young players in to play, as well as new players to want to play as well too. And we had a guy volunteer for that. He does it every Sunday. He had to miss a Sunday and he was starting Dragon Heist. So I was like, I'll start Dragon Heist. I'd love to start Dragon Heist. I get to bring out my Yawning Portal map. I get to bring on my tavern minis that I have of Volo and Mert and all the familiar faces that are in Dragon Heist, like Bonnie and Yagra and the Durin and all that. All my official minis, and I'm very proud that I have all those. Um, I made the mistake of bringing Umber Hulk instead of the troll that attacked everybody in the Yawning Portal, because I thought it was an Umber Hulk, not a troll.
Umber
Because the
Hulks are
Umber,
more dangerous.
yeah, but it just somebody else. The bartender fights it and beats it. Okay, it's the Sturges on the back that are really the big threat. Um,
And
that's the
Umber
threat
Hulk
for
with
the first level.
Sturges.
Well, yeah, it was just riding it. They were just chilling out and riding it. Um, And I remember that I swapped it from a troll to an Umber Hulk because I wanted to do something different than do a troll again. So I had thought in my brain when I was setting this up, oh yeah, it's an Umber Hulk. So I was looking for my Umber Hulk mini and I found it and I brought it. And then when I sat down and I looked at it, it's like, nope, it's actually a troll. It's like, shit, I didn't bring a troll with me.
It's
So
an Umber Hulk now.
it's an Umber Hulk now. But same, the bartender kills it. You just gotta fight the Sturges. So my daughter was playing and so was another player. We had two people join after the first encounter. So while I'm talking to this new player, he's like, I want to make a rogue and I want to steal everybody's stuff.
Of course he does.
Of course you do. Of course you do, like every other rogue. You're 13 and you think you can steal everybody's stuff. It's going to be a lesson you're going to learn. Might as well learn it now. Taught this lesson 1,000 times. Let's see
Yep.
how it goes. So the first time he died, he he actually just failed his death save. So the bandit hit him. He rolled for stats and put a -1 in Constitution. So he's starting off with 7 hit
Oh,
points. Not that I advise him against it. I also advise him not to be a rogue that steals stuff as a lightfoot halfling, and
yeah.
like it's just not part of their physiology to steal people's stuff. And I was like, He's like, well, name a rogue that doesn't steal stuff. I was like, Bilbo Baggins. He's like, who's that? And then it
How
hurt me.
how old is
Er,
this kid?
13. And that hurt me
I'm
so hard. I almost had a heart attack and died
I,
right then and
I'm
there.
I'm just not gonna say it. it's
So
it's too mean for me to even say on here.
I said some rogues can be good that steal stuff, like Robin Hood. Robin Hood was good. It's like, yeah, but I just want to steal indiscriminately. Like, all right, pal. So, anyways, he gets in his first combat, and uh, he's at full life. The bandit swings a scimitar and misses, and I'm rolling out in front of them so they can all see. And I roll the next attack, next turn against him. It's a critical hit, and I do, I think, 13 points of damage or something like that.
Yeah.
And he had 7 hit points, so 14 would have killed him. So my daughter's just standing on the other side of the yawning portal, the actual like well itself, just shooting the bandits with her massive longbow. She's having a good old time. So he rolls a death save. He gets a 8 and fails. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have the bard that's in the tavern res him after his next death save failure. Can you see where this is going?
I'm waiting.
Okay. So he rolls his next death save failure and rolls a 1,
Yep.
and he's dead. So I'm laughing hysterically. He's kind of like not sure, like, what did I just do? Laugh, and I explained to him that a 1 is 2
It's two
failures, and
failures. Yep.
so your character's dead. So he's like, well, so what do I do now? It's like, well, what I always find the best is just erase his first name and write down another name, and that's his brother that came to see him. So the the first name was like Harry Beerfeet, and then he erased Harry and wrote
Now it's
Steve
Larry.
Beerfeet,
Oh, Steve. Okay.
and then Steve showed up, and they're all talking. He's finishing Harry's beer because that's what Harry would have wanted. They threw Harry's body down into the yawning portal along with the bandits because that's a burial from a family member.
Yeah. That's how I bury
So
my family members.
just chuck him in a well.
Yeah, make sure it's at the bottom of a ditch while it's raining on a moonless night. That way they come back as barrel whites. Um,
So then we're kind of like I'm setting up for the next encounter, and he's kind of moving around. He's like, I want to stealth. I don't want to find someone to pickpocket. And he stealths and he's moving around. I'm having him make stealth checks, and he's failing every single one. Everyone's just like watching this guy sneak around, you
yep,
know. And then he sees Mert the moneylender.
there it is.
So he goes up to Mert, and he fails the stealth check. And I tell him that Mert looks right at you as you sneak in behind the curtain. He's like, all right, I'm gonna try to steal his stuff. Okay. He rolls. Mert beats it, of course. And I say that Mert grabs his hand and bats it away and says, "You best think about not doing that again. My name is Mert. How can I help you?" And he's like, can you give me money?" I was like, he didn't know it's Mert. I didn't say he was Mert the moneylender yet. I didn't even give him the name.
Just yeah.
He just asked for money. He's like, "Well, you came to the right place. My name is Mert. I'm a moneylender. What are you looking for? What's your business venture?" He's like, "I want 500 platinum so I can create
Ooh.
magical weapons out of dragon scales and then sell them back to you." And so I have
All
Mert
right.
go, "That's a terrible business venture. I'd be paying for my weapons twice." He's like, "Well, I can sell them to other people then." He's like, "You're not going to get back 500 platinum." And he's like, "I don't really think you have much of a business sense. I'll loan you 10 gold so you can have like a banquet or something, but then I'll, expect the money back." And he's like, "Nah." And then the Umber Hulk attacks. That situation kind of comes down. And all
That's
the
good.
while, he's like standing right next to Mert, and he keeps talking to Mert on his turn, trying to get Mert to do something. Um, and one of his friends comes up and kills a sturge that was right next to him, that actually attached to his arm. And because he's talking to Mert the entire time, ignoring the fact that it's a sturge, drinking his blood stuck to his arm.
Right, or
And he
that an
turns
Umber Hulk is trying to murder everything in the tavern.
Yeah. So he turns to his friend who just saved him from the sturge, and was like, "Hey, can you kill this guy so I can rob him?" And I have Mert just
Oh,
laugh and go, "Yeah, you best go sit down. You've had one too many drinks." And so they actually, kill, quote unquote, kill the Umber Hulk to kill the Sturges. They all sit back down, and they're talking. And then I have Volo kind of come up and do the Volo thing. And while Volo's doing that and giving them the next mission, he decides to sneak back and steal from Mert again.
Oh my god, he
Well,
didn't learn.
he rolls back. He sneaks back, and this time he gets like max roll. He rolled like a 19 plus all his modifiers, and I rolled low for Mert. So I'm
All
like,
right.
yeah, you hide, you go through the curtain this time, and you learn from your last time you did it, and you were less obvious, and you know you're hidden from Mert. You're right behind him. He's got a bunch of pouches on his belt, and you know that one's full of coin. He's like, all right, I'm gonna try to steal it. Like, all right. So I roll perception for Mert, and I had that guy do a sleight of hand, and it's the flip opposite this time. I get like 20 with Mert, and he gets like a 4. And I didn't know anything else to do but just have Mert come around and go, "You didn't learn your lesson last time? Well, you're gonna learn it this time," and then stab him 3 times with a dagger.
Yeah.
And since Mert can do stuff like that, he basically just like puts his hat down, stuffs him in the corner a little bit, lets him die there. Well, I did like 29 damage to him, so he was dead anyways.
Oh my god.
And he's like, "Oh, damn, that sucked." All right. Then he erases the name Steve and writes down Fred. Fred Barefoot feet come in. I'm just like, I don't think the lesson got learned here. So it's it was just
New
I
players
felt
are,
bad.
I've said it on here before and I will continue to say it. New players are the best and the worst thing about running a D&D game. Y-
So,
especially when they're young because they're going to try shit like that and they're going to keep trying stuff like that.
my daughter, she's still a little too young for D&D, but she was doing okay. She was just shooting people with her longbow, and whenever they got close, she just ran away. But I had like one of the bandits like was trying to run out of Yawning Portal and run by her, and she
Mhm.
started to cry. I
Oh
was like,
no.
"No, sweetie, it's okay. Don't worry. Just shoot him. You'll be fine." And then when the Umber Hulk showed up, like she's fine, like handling the Umber Hulk, looking at it when she was just sitting at the table while I was setting up. But the second the Umber Hulk showed up on the map, it like became real to her, and she's like, "No, the bug's gonna kill me. I don't like it. I don't want to play anymore." And I was like, "Sweetie, it's make believe, and you're far away from the Umber Hulk. Just shoot it.
Yeah,
You'll be
it's
fine."
it's it's all fakesies. None of it's real.
And then we had two
How
other
old is
people.
she now?
7.
7. Yeah, she's still young.
But we had two other kids join us, and they were a little bit older. And one came around and gave her a hug and comforted her. And I'm like, "No, don't worry, it's just make believe."
That was
So
nice.
that was cute. Like overall, it was a good time. I didn't run my normal game, unfortunately, but I did get a chance to run Adventures League this week, and we got 2 more adventures left in Keys from the Golden Vault this time. And I kind of allowed this to happen because we were very close to like ending 3 hours, and I really didn't want to run this adventure over 2 sessions.
Right.
We're level 8 now, 8 or 9. I think this player in this question was 9 here though, and the mission from the Keys from the Golden Vault is that you talk to a knight who basically says that his whole city has been placed under some kind of ritual that's been going on for like a month now, and that his king's heart is what's powering the ritual. And he wants you to basically sneak in there and find the king's heart and bring it back to him so he can end the ritual. And that's pretty much how it's laid out. There's like a half a castle, half of it's broken off and floating, and there's like this giant black holes being pulled into. And you're supposed to sneak in, find a way to kind of rappel up to the floating buildings, um, run in to where the king is, who's also got clay golem stats. Take the heart from off the floor, run away, bring the heart back to the knight, and he'll just end the encounter, and you'll be done.
All right.
So, of all the adventures so far in Keys from the Golden Vault that felt out of place, this one does not feel like it should be at level 9 or 8, whatever it is.
Do you think
Again,
it should be higher or lower?
lower, tons lower, and like I feel like this was an event. Someone wrote this for a bunch of like level 3s, level 4s, maybe level 5s, um, and the clay golem stats for the king were it was given those stats, and he had different stats for that king at the very end. Um, it's an impression that I get.
Okay.
So the the group gets in there and they're fighting a bunch of veterans. They pull 3 encounters at once, and are fighting a bunch of veterans who, in this case, the veteran's stat has changed because they're all ashy creatures. They're now ash elementals, so you can't hurt them with fire. And there's a bunch of hellhounds that are there too, and they're beating those guys up fairly easily. I have like 7 players again, so they're making quick work of everybody. They get up to where the the 3 buildings are floating. There's like a mage tower and the armory and the king's room. The heart's supposed to be in the king's room, and they were told that at the start. So the druid was currently shapeshifted as a spider, so he used some webbing to cross the gap and like hold the building in place. And I
Okay.
was like, this is perfect because the wizard who's casting the spell is his pyramage, and she's sitting in the mage tower and watching them the entire time. So when they get halfway across the web, she comes out and hits them all with fireball.
Fireball. Yep.
And I take out like half the party right there. Like 4 of them fell to their like almost deaths. They're all bleeding out. Like they're level 8 now, so they can eat a fireball.
Yeah.
Um,
And a
the,
fall.
and a fall. Um, and this monster is the first monster I'd say that I've played post Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, where they don't have spell slots anymore. They just have like spell like abilities.
Right. Yeah.
So her fireball recharges on a 5 or 6.
Ah,
Okay. She can take 2 reactions per turn. One of her reactions is Fire Shield, essentially. The other reaction is Counterspell with a fire damage component to it. So when the
okay.
fireball got counterspelled, it was yes,
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. So if she counterspells something, it deals fire damage, which
yes,
is weird. Yeah.
yeah. So it's very weird. It should have just been Counterspell. So I threw the fireball. It got counterspelled. She counterspelled, burned the guy. You know, and her counterspell was like the 4th level variant.
Hmm.
So she counterspells everything 4th and below
Right.
immediately.
Without a roll. Yep.
Yeah. So she counterspells that. The guy gets burned, hit with a fireball, but they're doing fine. They get to where the king is. They see him. Um, they're trying to figure out how to do that. She's cackling. They summon another demon to chase her. She turns invisible and basically is running away from the demon invisible the entire time. And the other players that fell that were unconscious, they get back up. One rolls a 20, so he gets back up. They kind of restore themselves. They find where the heart is. They sneak in, um, then aggro the king, who's again clay golem stat, but as an ash elemental, and they pull him out of the room. The goblin sneaks in, uh, and this goblin's a blade song wizard.
Blade
So
singer.
yeah, and so this is what he did that was very unique, and I just let it go because we were like 10 minutes to closing. So he had he's also the other DM for Mondays, so I kind of just like let him be as powerful as he wants him to be. I've never questioned anything. I was like, just have fun and just destroy everything, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so he had some magic spell, and I don't know if this is even real one. It probably
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Um, it's a high level spell. He said it was like 4th level or something like that. And what it does is it creates a treasure chest where you can put in 1 item,
Hmm.
and when you close that treasure chest then teleports to a person that you know
Yep.
with that item.
That is a real spell.
Okay, that is a real spell.
Yeah. It's
So,
I think it's Leomund's chest. I don't remember the
okay,
full title, but it's Leomund's
so,
chest.
sounds like what he said. So again, I'm not going to question another DM if he says that's what it is. I don't care. That flies. That works for me. But what he did was the crazy part. He didn't have it prepared. Okay.
Okay.
So I asked him, like, is that a ritual spell? He's like, no, it's not. Well, it is, but I'm not casting it as a ritual. It's like, okay, then how are you casting it if you don't have it prepared? He's like, I'm tearing the page out of my spell book and casting it like a spell scroll.
Okay. Um, that is definitely not in the rules,
Right.
but as a DM, I would allow that.
So he's like, so I permanently lose access to the spell unless I find it again.
Hmm.
Um, and the spell's gone. And it's like again, 10 minutes to closing.
Yeah.
Eh, whatever. You can do that.
I mean, it's costing him money to do it. In most
Money,
situations,
and I think it's probably a rare spell.
yeah, I don't know about rarities. I don't. None of them are really rare in 5e. But all that being said, 10 minutes to close. I'm probably going to allow it.
Yeah. um, so that's what he did. He basically teleported the chest to the knight, and I basically
Yep.
had the knight kind of go like, "What is this? What?" And then like open it after like 2 rounds go by.
Yep.
And the thing is like once the knight gets the heart, he immediately stops the ritual that's been going on for a month and reverses all the damage. And the sad part is by the time that happened, they had killed the king. They had killed most of the people that were most of the Ash veterans that were in there. They killed the dogs that were hellhounds. Because they didn't know otherwise. What happens
Right.
is when the spell gets reverted, everyone returns to normal.
So in this case, they all turn to not ash, but their dead bodies on the ground.
Yeah, they all turn to their dead bodies on the ground, and the guy's like, "Damn, I wish that wasn't the case. This is a terrible day for our nation. We're going to lose. Our king is dead." And they're like, "Well, job complete.
Yep.
Where's our money?"
We get paid. That's all that matters.
So
Not our problem. We were not told otherwise.
yeah, I even went back and it's like I checked. I was like, "Does he tell them not to kill anybody?" No, he doesn't. All right.
Yeah,
He
sounds
sent a
like the.
bunch of adventurers off to go steal something. They're gonna murder everything between point A and
Oh
point
yeah, yeah.
B.
I mean, look, hey, killing everything between point A and B is typically the easiest and fastest route to do this.
I mean, shit. As we talked about earlier in the podcast, I did it for XP for the goblins that were my friends.
Yeah, exactly. I like this
I, s- I,
goblin.
s-
He's my
I still
buddy.
remember Muffin's like, "Why aren't they attacking me? I'm just murdering them in one shot." It's like, yeah, because they're neutral to us.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
yeah. I think, yeah, like I think they just start off neutral at least in that area, but I could be wrong. Like, eh, might not be. So
Ugh.
that's oh my gosh, that's funny. So I got one last thing I wanted to talk about briefly before we wrap this podcast up.
Is it the new season of Futurama?
No, but I might have to watch that. I honestly
Is it
I always enjoyed Futurama, but I never watched all of it.
the first episode of the new season? Is all about the fact that they're being renewed for another season. That's the
That's
joke for 25
that's
minutes.
honestly that doesn't surprise me, and that's right on par with what it should be. I probably would have been disappointed if they didn't do an episode like that.
Is your topic about Disney's Lorcana?
No, we talked about that last week and the riot that it caused.
It's going to bankrupt my family.
I shouldn't be laughing at that because you're probably not lying.
Well,
Have you gone to the bank yet to start taking out loans for Lorcana?
yeah, I basically gave up my title to my car so I could get some money so I could buy some Lorcana cards.
It's not like you leave the house. You don't need that car.
Nah, not
Just
that
take it.
far.
You only have to take an Uber to the grocery store once a week. You can get all the fast food delivered, and just take a Uber occasionally to go down there for Wednesday nights, run your games. That's it. No, so a while back, remember I bought a collection that had a bunch of Rolemaster stuff in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, now, mind you, I don't know dick about Rolemaster other than it uses a lot of charts and everything. But the book that I'm looking at specifically is called Rolemaster Game Master Law. And Rolemaster titled all of their books Law. So the book on spells is Spell Law. The book on player characters is probably Player Law. The Game Master Law is the Game Master's Guide. And
Okay.
it is a different type of game mastering book. While I think it does have magic items and stuff in here somewhere, maybe
Hmm.
it is much less about that, and it is a book specifically on how to deal with players and how to actually run a game. And I know we've
Okay.
talked about this before, that you hope that with 5.5, when they release the book, you want it to be on how to run the damn game, and
Yeah.
less about, less magic items, less other nonsense and stuff on, and how to actually properly run this game. One thing that I thought was kind of funny and neat that they did is they actually have a personality chart for players, all your different player types, and they labeled them with animals. So, as
Okay.
an example, is the eagle. The eagle is a charismatic player that has many good ideas. He is the perfect leader. Other players follow him almost without question. He wants to know what the other players think and has a special sense of what the game master is trying to convey in the story. His passion for the game is rarely matched. And they have a whole bunch of these. There's eagle, hound, bull, bear, magpie, fox, hawk, cat, serpent, rabbit, turtle, cow, vulture, sponge, and dragon. So I
Sponge.
love how everything in here is a real animal except for the dragon, and that and that they have sponge in there. Which
All
is
right.
barely, I guess it registers as an animal, sort of. Uh, The sponge simply absorbs all that you throw at him and generally does not add anything back to the game. He will take the best character background and never mention it. He will see the most interesting things and not respond to them. He remembers very little of previous games. He is usually not in the game for the role playing.
Okay.
I'm sure you've met players like that.
Sounds like me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, doesn't sound like you at all, but you've definitely met those kind of players.
Okay.
The vulture is that lost person that eventually makes everyone angry. His
Mhm.
enthusiasm for the game is unmatched, except perhaps by the eagle, but his conduct is horrible. His luck is terrible. He is moody and overreacts to everything. In general, the vulture is more trouble than he is worth. The best GMs can direct the vulture, usually with the help of an eagle or a bear, towards evolving into a different type of gamer. He could eventually become a great eagle or bear. I think you described the eagle or the vulture earlier with your 13-year-old rogue.
Yeah.
They're just there for the game, but they're just really bad at dealing with other people and everything else in general.
I want to
So,
steal stuff.
yeah, yeah, that's the vulture.
Okay.
But yeah, I honestly, it's a very kind of a neat book. If any DMs have the book, it's probably worth looking back through. And if you don't have the book, it might be worth finding it or a PDF and just flipping through here, because there's a lot of stuff in this thing about just how to be a DM, which is what we try to kind of promote on here, even though we don't talk about it all the time, since we mostly just talk about WotC's, you know, troubles.
Yeah. And I'm still kind of waiting on a bunch of things. Like I want to still review like Bigby stuff, but I also kind of want to review like the um the other book that we bought that we still haven't gotten yet with all the Sky Raiders of Abraxas or whatever it
Oh
was.
yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
waiting for that one. But
Yeah, that's still out in the ether. I did back um the Legend of Zelda slash Studio Ghibli 5e setting.
I I really wanted to. I can't really afford it right at the moment. But there
Yeah.
have been several of them that have hit recently that I'm really interested in, and I'm probably not going to back any of them. I'll just find a copy later down the road.
Yeah, when it's you can buy my copy for $7,000.
Yeah, well, I doubt it'll be that expensive. I'm sure I can get it on eBay or just at a local gaming store after it's released.
Nope, you can't get first edition. It came through Kickstarter.
I don't really care if it's
Got the
first
little
edition.
K on it and everything.
Got that
So
Kickstarter K.
so so I looked up Leomund's secret chest
Yeah, that's
while
it.
you were rambling about sponges, and it does not work at all like he said it did.
Of course not.
All right, so
I
first
told
off,
you it was a real spell, but I couldn't remember the exact workings of it.
you need an exquisite chest, 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, constructed from rare materials worth at least 5,000 gold. You didn't have that.
Yeah, definitely didn't have that on
and
them.
needed a tiny replica made from the same materials worth at least 50 gold. Okay. So the chest, all it does is go into the ethereal plane. And then when you summon it with your chest, okay, um, it brings the ethereal chest to you within 5 feet of you. And then you can
Okay.
dismiss the chest again.
That
It
doesn't
doesn't
work
go to
anything.
someone
Yeah,
else.
that doesn't work anything at all like he said it works.
Yeah. Uh,
I always wonder about shit that gets stored on the ethereal plane. How many times does that stuff get stolen by some random being on the ethereal just walking by and finding it?
well, funny you should ask that. After 60 days, there is a cumulative 5% chance per day that the spell effect ends. I would also say that's probably that's a cumulative 5% chance that someone takes your shit.
Yeah, that somebody finds the chest. Because the
So,
the the ethereal plane it's just a plane, man. There's things that live there.
yeah. So,
That's where ghosts live. That's where all of the creatures from the what are they? The little statues that you can summon creatures with. They're all from the ethereal plane.
also, the chest can only contain 12 cubic feet of non-living material, and that heart was definitely a living thing. It was still beating.
Ah,
So again, 10
10
minutes
minutes to
to close.
closing. Yeah. That's the title of this episode. 10 minutes to closing.
10 minutes to closing. All right. Well, I think we hit our hour. It's
Yeah.
10 minutes to midnight, so let's.
Yep. It's 10 minutes to less than 10 minutes to be done with this podcast. So, thanks everybody for listening and we'll talk to you next week. Talk at you
Craig,
next week. See you next
clean
week.
the trains before you leave.
And we need more energy, Craig. What happened to all your
Bye.
energy? Didn't you have energy drinks?
I did have energy drinks. You want me to send you one?
No.